Hey, good morning, fam. It is Saturday morning when I am recording this, and fall is here. It's like low 70s. It's awesome. I'm in a hoodie, dude. Love it when I can be in a hoodie. So my spouse finally snapped and said, "That's it. Do something with your books." I have had. I'm like occupying a couple of shelves in a bookshelf in our bedroom. I've got stacks of books, in different places where I do different writing, stacks of books. So finally my spouse this morning was like, "It's Saturday, you're free, do something about your books." And we actually have a couple of open bookshelves in the garage. One of the big things that I try to do is to provide some resources for lay people like you and me to access the biblical literature in a more informed and academic way, which is the point of the newsletter that I keep, which is a lot of the point of the content that I make, which is just a lot of what my life is about. So I want to provide some resources. And I thought, well, I'm cleaning out the books, organizing the bookshelf. This might be a good time just to walk you through some stuff that you may be interested in picking up. So this video is really just about resources, about some of the books that I go to frequently, and what I think are really useful resources. These are things that I've accumulated over years. So this isn't as though, you can go out and just like drop a few thousand. Well, if you can go out and drop a few $1,000s, do it at an independent bookstore, and good for you. I'm not that person. So this is a collection over many, many, many years. But I thought I'd just walk you through some of them. This isn't like I don't mean for this to be an overly wrought, academic treatise on the titles you must have. Rather, this is just some stuff that has helped me. And so recently, if you're on the Clock app, recently McClellan did a tour of his t-shirts. So consider this a tour of my books. Let's go for it. They're all there. And so let's start first with this shelf. So these are just different Torahs. Mostly, there are also Sidurs in here. These are, a lot of them are art scroll. And so you may know, especially if you're coming through, which is not my tradition, but if you're coming through a more orthodox expression and observance of Judaism, then you likely know the art scroll books really well. And they have this kind of characteristic. They've got a style to them, right? So I got a bunch of those, but then I also have, so this is from the Jewish Publication Society, this Torah, a little bit more accessible by the JPS translation, which is not totally dissimilar from the NRSV UE. Always consulting. The funny quote that I was reminded by my spouse, who said this not long ago, is, "How many Bibles do you have?" So I thought that was funny. The reason, though, so while we can be like sharing of resources and also some educational stuff, these are up, all of those are up on a second shelf. And the reason for that is just out of respect for the sacred literature, that it ought not be on the floor. And if it ever ends up on the floor, then, you need to like give it a smooch, which is the tradition. Do I think that am I committed theologically to some sort of metaphysical, ontological, theological commitment that we must do that, or that it really is a disservice to drop it on the ground? No, that's not my level of observance. But I want to follow the practice, right? And so it's up a shelf. I don't think it should be on the bottom shelf. So that's why those are there. But then on the bottom, so that's a lot of the academic literature about biblical interpretation. So, and it kind of runs the gamut. This is on the bottom shelf. This is stuff that I don't consult as often, but books that have really been terrific. I'm just randomly. This one I've talked about before, Butnitsky's How Judaism Became a Religion. Really fascinating discussion of the movement through history, that Judaism has not always aligned itself as a religion, because it's more about an ethnic identity, peoplehood and rites and rituals, etc. That's a really fascinating book. I've got some really good, some great Paula Fredrickson stuff. I've got a whole, just about a quarter of a shelf full of Fredrickson's work. I've got some great Amy Jo Levine down here. Here's a good one, a really terrific book. The Misunderstood Jew from Amy Jill Levine. Really great if you're interested in historical Jesus stuff and if you've not read a lot in that area, that's a great one to go to. Up above that, so this Introduction to the Hebrew Bible is, important to have, right? If you want to read the stuff that like undergraduates or, maybe master's degree students would be working with, that's a good one. And I've got Ehrman's, here it is. So that Introduction to the Hebrew Bible, this Ehrman Introduction to the New Testament. Those are things that you can buy them in older editions on like thrift store, book shops, online and in person. So you can score these. I mean, these are textbooks, right? So they're going to be upwards of $100 if you get the most recent editions. But you can get these past editions, on the cheap, right? Because they're, college students try to sell their books and then you can buy them cheap, right? So Introduction to the Old Testament, Introduction to the New Testament. Those are great resources that I reference frequently. Let's keep moving up. We've got the Oxford Annotated, which I frequently reference, the Jewish Study Bible. Those both have commentary. I reference them all the time. The Jewish Annotated New Testament, great commentary, reference that all the time. The Complete Gospels, this includes the Gospel of Thomas and some apocryphal stuff, I think. But this one's really good. It has its kind of partner, the Complete Gospel Parallels. So that's really useful because with the synoptic accounts especially that share stories, because Mark in priority, Matthew and Luke are drawing from Mark. So the gospel parallels are really useful. My grandpa went to seminary and this is his Complete Gospel Parallel. This is like a 67, I think, has his notes in it. Very meaningful to me. I miss my grandpa greatly. And so to reconnect with some of his notes in that book is a special and meaningful thing. So that's all. And then, that's good. I'm trying to think what else I'd want to highlight while I'm looking through these to give you resources. All of this great stuff, new scholarship on Paul. I talked about Thiessen's new book on Paul in a video yesterday. This is a great one, The Radical Jew from Boyrin. Let's see what else. Here's Fredrickson. I think I referenced this in a video recently. This is Paula Fredrickson's Paul, the Pagan's Apostle is a great one. And then if you want to see like kind of where some of this movement started about this kind of new interpretation of Paul, this one right here from Stendhal, Paul among Jews and Gentiles. So like older school, right? But that movement to replace some of the supersessionary reading that happens into Paul kind of starts there with a new interpretation on Paul with people like Christopher Stendhal. So those are some books. There's several minutes on what's in the library, and those are things that I reference most regularly. So that's why I tried to highlight those that really caught my eye. I'm looking, like, if you're interested also, there's like, on the Torah itself, the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, whatever you know that as. I mean, there's a ton of great, this bedside Torah is a great, like, kind of Torah devotional thing that's low-key and chill. The 5 books of Miriam, kind of a more feminist reading on the Torah. The Social Justice Torah Commentary is another great one. This is a really recent release. I think last year maybe the Social Justice Torah Commentary came out. And so there's a handful of those Torah commentaries that I really enjoy. And then I guess, okay, so now I'm getting into it, and I didn't mean to go further, but I'll just show you this and then I'll be quiet. But this, Who Wrote the Bible, from Richard Elliott Friedman. If you are a lay person that wants to learn more about the documentary hypothesis or the composition of the Torah or the Pentateuch, start here with Richard Elliott Friedman's Who Wrote the Bible. You can read this, I promise. Advanced general readers can be right at home in that book. And then Friedman went on to isolate the J source in the hidden book of the Bible. Very recently, McClellan's been talking about this one. This is a new reading on P, the consuming fire, this new translation on P. If you listen to the Data Over Dogma podcast, the author of this book was just on that. And then Joel Baden at Yale, the composition of the Pentateuch, which, sorry, it's got my notes on the front. This is kind of a neo-documentary hypothesis, updating the documentary hypothesis. Okay, so now I'm really done. And so I hope that's helpful. Peace out.